there's so much more to design than just pretty design. There's a lot of marketing that goes into it and a lot of thought process and decisions to be made with graphics that have to do with marketing and the user and putting your customer first. A lot of business owners have a hard time relaying that information in a way that makes sense to a customer. And so it's fun to look at it from a third party, because if it doesn't make sense to me while I'm looking at it, then your ideal customer is definitely not going to get it. Because if you're trying to get a customer to buy your product, it has to answer all their pain points. When you think of the customer journey, they have to see themselves in your product, and then that's when they make a purchase. And so I'm always looking at design in that extra marketing viewpoint of, yes, this is pretty, but are we actually giving useful information? Like, will this actually convert into a customer?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Digital Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Eli Adams. Today's episode is brought to you by fireusmarketing.com, where SEO solutions pave the way to digital excellence. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode where we are joined by Makenzie Jamias. Makenzie is a creative force in the marketing world with a passion for elevating businesses through innovation and brand creative strategies. As the design director at Evolved Commerce, an agency specializing in Amazon e-commerce marketing, she brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table. But that's not all. Makenzie also presents her expertise to students as a content marketing instructor at Utah Valley University. With a rich background spanning from photography, social media, and even event planning, she's a true expert in the digital marketing realm. When Makenzie is not working, you'll find her spending time with her family, swimming, reading the latest fiction book, and finding local restaurants to eat at. Welcome to the show, Makenzie.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
I'm excited to dig into some of your experience, and I know you have some Amazon experience, another experience. We haven't had a lot of design experience on the podcast, so this is going to be new for me and for the listeners, and I'm really excited to jump in. So let's just dive right in. So tell us about yourself. Where'd you grow up? How was it growing up? Did you have any experiences as a child that made you kind of who you are? Let's dive in.
Yeah. So I grew up, I think I kind of had a little bit of an unusual upbringing because we moved around a lot.
Okay.
My dad worked in the business world. He works in finance. And so typically you don't move around a lot with that type of a career. But just as my dad has quote unquote climbed the corporate ladder,
Yeah.
we ended up moving a ton for him to do that. So I was born in California. I grew up in a family of 6. I had 3 other siblings. And we moved about every 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that was hard, but also completely shaped who I am today, because it really made me have to adapt to different situations fairly often. Because my dad worked in finance, he was definitely a numbers and a spreadsheet guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was not creative. My mom wasn't creative. They're both loved sports so much. They met playing collegiate sports at Fresno State.
Oh, wow.
And so, huge sports family. My dad, very much numbers guy. They honestly did not know what to do with me. They say that all the time. I think they saw different things that I did creatively, and they genuinely didn't know what to do to kind of help me thrive in that.
What kind of things did they see you do?
Honestly, I don't think they really saw me doing anything long-term in the career. The culture in my family, like how I grew up, there was really no expectation for me to continue to have a career being a woman.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She took care of us full time and did all the classic carpool pickup, driving to sporting events, all of that. She made us home cooked meals, breakfast, dinner, packed our lunches for us, like the whole thing. And so I really don't think my parents expected me to be working full time, like after having a family.
Yeah.
And so they always stress the importance of an education. Like, they wanted me to get a college degree.
Mm-hmm.
And they made sure that that happened for me. But then they really didn't expect anything beyond that. And so that was, I think, different for them. They
Mm-hmm.
were surprised when I wanted to continue to work and have a career. And I think it's definitely changed their viewpoint a little bit
Mm-hmm.
on that expectation of what was originally put on me versus what I do now. I
Mm-hmm.
think they've seen me thrive and they can see a different way of what they thought I would do later on in life.
Yeah, culturally things were different back in the day, right? Like it just kind of
Yeah.
was okay for the woman to be a stay-at-home mom or whatever, but I think a lot of people are embracing the fact that you can do both and still be successful at both. So good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. I think a lot of the reason I wanted to was just seeing dynamics in my family. And for me, it was never, I don't know. I genuinely never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I knew that from a pretty young age because in once I found design, um, and I thought that that was something I wanted to do. I found it in high school.
Okay.
Actually, it's a cool little story of how I kind of found it. Um, but I always knew, like, I figured I would be self-employed at some point in my
Yeah.
life, which I have been. And I don't know, I feel like it was just kind of an instinct that I knew that this would end up being my path.
Yeah. Let's hear that story. How did you get into it?
Okay, I love this story. So when I was in high school, my parents took a trip and they had someone uh, that was like recently post college, like graduated, come watch
Mm-hmm.
us. And she was a graphic designer.
Hmm.
Um, Prior to meeting her, I'd always been interested in like architecture and I'd taken like a CAD drawing class, but like it didn't fully click, but I was interested in that realm of like tech and structured design. And so her name is Melanie Burke. She came to our house and she was self-employed and working on client projects. And so she brought, this was back in 2008 or 2009.
Okay.
She brought her huge like Mac desktop. I remember she brought it in the car and brought it to her house while she stayed with us
Mm-hmm.
so that she could work on her client projects.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never even seen like a Mac computer. I wasn't around them. I'd never seen anything with the Adobe suite before that. And I remember just sitting there and watching her do packaging design.
Hmm.
She just was like, I don't know. I just was watching her work and I thought it was so, so cool.
Yeah.
And so she ended up taking me to BYU, University in Provo,
Mm-hmm.
and she took me like on a little art department tour. And she took me
Oh,
to the different
nice.
classrooms and talked about graphic design as a
Mm-hmm.
career. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of it or like knew what it was.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, I'm going to be a graphic designer.
That's so cool.
Like,
How nice of her to do something like that and really inspire you. Are you still in touch with her today?
yeah, I don't talk to her a ton anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if she realizes like how impactful she was. I've always kind of credited her to like my introduction to graphic design. And this is making me realize I need to reach out to her and like
Yeah,
really let her know. But
absolutely.
that's really where it all started was that introduction to design from her.
So were you just about ready to go to college when this happened, or were you still in high school or?
Yeah, I was in high school. I was a junior. Yeah, I was a junior in
Mm-hmm.
high school. And so then going into my senior year of high school, I knew I was wanting to go to a university with graphic design.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was originally on track to play volleyball in college at that
Mm-hmm.
point. And so I was specifically looking to try and get a volleyball scholarship at a school that I could do design at.
Yeah.
Um, and so my senior year, I did college visit for volleyball at like programs like Academy of Art in San Francisco and some other California art schools.
Mm-hmm.
And I tore my labrum practicing with the teams on those college visits and had to get surgery.
Oh my goodness.
And so I was out for that year. There was no way I could get a scholarship like going into freshman year of college at that point.
Yeah.
And so then I went to BYU for college. I applied the very last day of the deadline because at that point I just thought I was playing volleyball. And
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't know what else to do once that went out the window. So I applied the last day of the deadline, somehow got in, and was pre-graphic design going into college.
That's awesome. So, okay, so
Yeah.
your senior year of high school, did you take any design classes now that you knew going from junior to senior? Did you take any design classes or was your first real kind of intro in college?
So the school I was at didn't have design. So I went to 3 high schools, and my senior year of high school, we moved to the Philippines.
Oh, wow.
And so I ended up going to this international school, and it was called Brent.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have like a specific graphic design course. The way their courses were structured for international schools is called IB, which is International Baccalaureate.
Mm-hmm.
And they're typically 2-year programs. So your freshman and sophomore year are the same classes, and your junior and senior year are the same classes. And so going in as a senior, I was kind of at a disadvantage because I didn't take those classes junior year.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get that opportunity. So I still didn't have any skills at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was cool. I liked it. And that was basically it.
So BYU is a pretty tough school. So what did you get in and like just naturally adapt and were good at it? Or did it take some time and lots of tears maybe to get through the program?
So, no. So, I did all the prerequisite classes my freshman year of college.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into an art and design study abroad in Europe that I did right after my freshman year. It was the summer after my freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, they don't let people into the study abroad unless you're already in the major. But for some reason, they made an exception for me and they let me
Oh,
go.
wow.
And so that was the study abroad was the first time I got to take a couple like graphic design specific courses. And I was surrounded by people who were already in the major and who were older than me. And I was definitely very intimidated.
Yeah.
At this point, like I still didn't really have any of the technical skills I should have had coming into it. And even the prerequisites, like you have to take a drawing class as a prerequisite. And I had virtually never taken drawing before then.
Mm-hmm.
And so I very much was behind, and I knew I was behind. And I was too scared to reach out to figure out like what I needed to do
Mm-hmm.
to make it better. Cause I definitely was years behind a lot of the other students applying.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, after I got back from my study abroad, the next semester is when I applied for the graphic design program,
Yeah.
and I actually got rejected.
Hmm.
And at BYU, they only let you apply twice. And then if you apply a second time and you get rejected, they don't let you apply again. And I was planning on doing graphic design as my major and minoring in business. And so I had started taking some business courses and for the minor.
Mm-hmm.
And in some of those, it was actually a finance professor who was like, hey, if you're thinking about being a business major, we have a new major called experience design management that's easier to get into than, say, the marketing program.
Yeah.
And if you think you want to do business, like this program is going to get harder to get into. So if you're thinking about it, you should declare it now because it's only going to get harder.
Yeah.
And I'd just gotten rejected from the graphic design program. And I was very much questioning
Mm-hmm.
like what I was supposed to do because I was so far behind with design that I switched my major. So I flip-flopped it.
Yeah.
So I majored in experience management and then I declared an art minor.
Okay.
Um, and I'm actually really glad I did it. Um, my major was fun. It honestly was more about like venue management, hospitality, event planning than it
Yeah.
was about anything else. But I still was able to take the business core classes like human resources, organizational behavior, strategy, like
Mm-hmm.
any other business student. And then with the art minor, I kind of tricked the system a little bit and I looked up all the design courses that you take for just a general bachelor's
Mm-hmm.
in graphic design. And I would look up their schedule the first week of class. And I wasn't allowed to add them because I wasn't a design major.
Yeah.
So I couldn't just add it into my schedule. So I would show up to these classes the first week of school and I would tell the professors, like, I'm an art minor. I really want to take your class. And all of them gave me ad codes.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I I don't know if I just got lucky or what, but I ended up graduating from college, taking every single graphic design course required to graduate except for one.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and so I feel like I was able to really get that graphic design background
Mm-hmm.
with majoring in business and just an art minor, which is
Yeah.
pretty funny.
That's awesome. So you went to the study abroad with a lot of experienced people. Did it help being around the experienced people to sort of elevate you a little bit more, or was it did they help at all, or how did that go?
I think it just really made me realize where I was at. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think it really made me step back and be like, whoa, I really am not up to par with these people. And because of how quickly you have to declare a major and apply to programs, I just knew I didn't have the time to like fully catch up to get my portfolio in a place to get accepted by the design program.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And so, although I knew I was behind, it didn't make me want to stop doing it, which is why I went to all the classes and got
Mm-hmm.
ad codes to take the classes anyways,
Yeah.
because I still really wanted to learn it. And I knew I was really interested. I just knew I was behind.
Well, good for you for being innovative and making that happen. Okay, so now fast forward all the way
Yeah.
to the end of college. You ended up taking all the classes except one. You get your major in business, which I think is a great background to have anyway. So now you're graduated. What happens? What's next?
Yeah. So while I was in college, I worked as an event planner and I worked as a graphic designer.
Okay.
Um, I had two different graphic design jobs while in college, and for some reason, I didn't wanna be a designer when I graduated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think just mixed with the business background too, I had it in my mind that I wanted to work in marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew I had the creative skills to be able to do that. While I was in college, I also taught myself photography, and so I was like, "I have photography skills, I have graphic design skills, I have event planning skills."
Yeah.
Like I was really interested in social media and I knew that I could take those like hard skills and put them into marketing. And so my first job out of college was just a general marketing coordinator job
Mm-hmm.
for like a best of state caterer in Utah.
Hmm.
The business is called Culinary Crafts
Okay.
and um the job was awesome. I worked under her name's Mary Crafts
Okay.
and she was the owner of the company at the time. She started it,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to work directly under her, and I learned so much from her about being particular and caring about all the little details in how you market and present yourself
Mm-hmm.
in an elevated way for an elevated brand online.
What kind of tasks did she have you do?
I I did kind of everything online.
Hmm.
So I did all their social media. I did a lot of their blog posts, keeping their website up to date. I
Mhm.
photographed a ton of their events. Um, my husband always says he barely saw me the few years I worked there because they had events all over Utah and I was always driving in the car and
Yeah.
all over the place. Um, but yeah, just a lot of that more creative
Hmm.
marketing tasks.
So your biggest takeaway from that specific job was how important attention to detail is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Their brand, I mean, they literally have won Best of State at this point over 20 times.
Holy cow.
Um, and they are the caterer that you call when the president is coming into town.
No
Like
way.
they are literally the best of Utah in catering and events. They
How
they
awesome.
throw the best events. And so you couldn't just post something online or on their social media or on their blog post
Hmm.
that had a napkin out of place or fork facing like angled incorrectly or place setting is incorrectly placed. Just those little details they cared about.
Yeah.
And initially I was like, why does this matter? Like no one notices. But a company like that, that's literally the best of the best, they notice everything.
That's awesome. Okay. So how long were you there and where did you go from there?
I was there for I think a year and a half to 2 years.
Hmm.
Um, and while I was there, I realized I really just liked social media the most. Like out of everything I was
Hmm.
doing, I wanted to do social media. And so I decided I was going to be self-employed.
Cool. Okay.
Um, I quit that job with no clients lined up. I just thought that they would just
Just
magically
come.
appear out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, I dove into being self-employed. I started the business. We called it Jamias Creative from
Hmm.
our last name. And um, the goal was my husband also works in marketing. He does something a little bit different now, but at the time he was
Hmm.
fully marketing just like me. And so our goal was that within 5 years, he could join me full time and we'd both be self employed together.
Yeah.
Well, after a couple months of no clients, I picked up a few of my first clients and my husband was laid off from his job.
Oh no.
And he was applying for jobs with no luck. And we kind of were just like, why not just gain a couple more clients and like, let's just work together now.
Hmm.
So that's what we ended up doing. We were both self employed for ourselves in this business um, from that point on. Um, we just like completely specialized in organic social media and the content creation for it.
Hmm.
And we loved it. We loved working together. We worked with a lot of fun brands and we were able to grow. Um, in our 6th year of business, we were able to make a few hires and get some help rather than just us
Nice.
doing everything.
Yeah.
And the more we grew, the more we did not like it anymore.
Interesting. And why is that?
I think, I mean, all the business books talk about it, right? There's that breaking point where
Hmm.
you're putting in way more effort, you're taking way more of your time, everything is harder, and you're not getting paid more.
Yeah.
And that learning curve of not only being a business owner, but now having to be an employer
Mhm.
and be taking care of employees, I don't think we weren't able to grow out of it fast enough and it
Mhm.
burned us out so quickly. But also by that point, being self-employed for that long and we were offering the same services the whole time,
Mhm.
we've really never evolved or grew into other aspects of marketing. And ultimately, we both got bored
Hmm.
and we both wanted to do different things. My husband left the company first. He wanted
Mhm.
to teach and he got a full-time job teaching marketing.
Nice.
And then I also started teaching at UVU
Mhm.
and loved it. I was like, this is so fun, especially being around people post-pandemic. Um, I just wanted to be around more people. I wanted to
Yeah.
work with peers, and I also felt very stagnant in my growth
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I had done everything I could to grow in that space, and I wasn't really progressing past it. And I could have progressed more as a business owner, but I couldn't really have progressed more like within my skill set.
Yeah.
So we essentially like quit our company. We let go of our clients.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds ridiculous. We let go of our clients and stopped doing it. So my husband was working full time and I quit without knowing what I was going to do next.
Yeah.
And there's a program here in Utah called Tech Moms.
Yeah.
And I went to a networking event and met someone who did it. And I was like, that sounds awesome. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do next. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the Tech Moms class and they brought in they had the technical component of learning how to code, which I was
Mm-hmm.
always interested in learning. But they also just brought in people from different aspects of their departments in tech.
Yeah.
And they brought in someone from UX UI. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, I just
Mm-hmm.
felt, while listening to her talk about her career, I was like, why have I not considered moving back into design more?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to get a job back in design. I don't know. It was really that
Mm-hmm.
simple. I was just like, this is what I'm going to do next. Like, I just knew that's what I was going to do next again.
That's so cool. So you kind of go a little bit back and forth, which I think is a really cool story, and a lot of people need to understand. Like, I think younger kids in college, they think, oh, these older people who have families and careers, they're set and they knew exactly what they wanted to do, and it was a straight line. Like what you're telling me really resonates with my life and a lot of other people that I've talked to, where it's, you start here and you end up pivoting and going over here, and you're like, well, that doesn't work, let's go back over here. And there's a lot of people who start a business and say, well, this isn't for me. And there's a lot of people who go into, development and say development's not for me, but product management is. And people who go in design and say design's good, but maybe not for me, I'm going to go into this side of marketing. And so it sounds like you're a human. It sounds like you're just like everyone else, and you've been able to pivot and get a lot of experience in a lot of cool areas. So after you went to this Tech Mom group, is that when you finally got the job that you're at right now?
Yeah. So while I was still in the Tech Moms program is when I got the job I'm in now.
Okay.
Um, I like from that class of hearing the person talk about UX UI, I revamped my resume back to design
Mm-hmm.
and got this job during the program. So I
Nice.
currently work at Evolved Commerce
Mm-hmm.
and as a design director.
So I think it's a little bit, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a little bit different than just normal design, because it's a huge aspect of marketing on Amazon to have really good
Mhm.
design, right? So you're kind of
Yeah.
heavy on the design because you're directing all of that, but there's a huge marketing component, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because our whole agency is just focusing on running Amazon for our clients. And so
Mm-hmm.
we're working with a lot of different types of e-commerce brands. And there's more. And this is why I genuinely love the career path I've taken, is
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much more to design than just pretty design.
Yeah.
There's a lot of marketing that goes into it and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
thought process and decisions to be made with graphics
Mm-hmm.
that have to do with marketing and the user and putting your customer first. That if I had gone traditional graphic design program in college, they don't talk about that.
Right.
There is no marketing course for graphic designers. They know how to make good design and they know great hierarchy and typography. They
Mm-hmm.
don't get to learn how how to answer the questions for their customers that marketers do know how to answer.
Yeah. That's so cool. So walk me through like day to day, like what do you do at the agency to help the clients that come through?
Yeah. So we put them through kind of a whole system of design work. We usually start right when we get a new client and we do an audit of their account to check
Mhm.
out what they have, If they don't have anything, making sure they do have it. If they do have stuff, then we're looking at optimizing it. We're looking at what can be improved. Do they need to add a comparison chart at the bottom of their A+, or does their storefront make sense? Does the navigation make sense to the customer? How are they talking about their product? Does it make sense to people? That's a lot of what we're doing, because a lot of business owners they know they are the expert on their product.
Right.
They can answer any question. They know exactly what makes their product good. But a lot of business owners have a hard time relaying that information in a way that makes sense to a customer. And so it's fun to look at it from a third party, because if it doesn't make sense to me while I'm looking at it, then your ideal customer is definitely not going to get it.
Right.
And so we look at that and give them a full audit of what their content is looking like. And we either create it from scratch if they've had nothing, or we're optimizing it and we're recreating it to make it the best it can be.
So you look at the content from a word standpoint as well as design. So from the pictures up top to the full page graphics down below where people scroll, and it's supposed to answer questions, right? Like the goal is to answer all the questions so that they click add to cart. And if they don't, then there's probably a question that they have that's not being answered, right?
Yep, exactly. Because if you're trying to get a customer to buy your product, it has to answer all their pain points. When you think of the customer journey, they have to see themselves in your product, and then that's when they make a purchase. And so I'm always looking at design in that extra marketing viewpoint of, yes, this is pretty, but are we actually giving useful information? Like, will this actually convert into a customer?
I love what you said there, that the customer has to see themselves in your product, right? Like wording is very important in marketing. And when marketers go out there and say, here's why you need my product, instead of here's the story and how you can relate to it, like the customers need to be able to feel those emotions and be a part of that story rather than me pushing it to you. That's why a lot of people on social media, a lot of experts say they recommend, don't start your social media with start it with you. You're going to love this because you're going to love this, right? That we solve this problem for you. So I love how you worded that, saying that you have to make the wording and the visuals so that the customer can see themselves in it. That's great. Very insightful. So let's dive into the tactical piece. And since we're talking about Amazon, let's start with Amazon, but then I do want to dive into some of the social media and other skills that you have. But like, if I am an e-commerce brand and I'm on Amazon or just getting on Amazon, and maybe I can't afford an in-house person to help optimize it, or I don't have the know-how to hire an agency yet, what do you recommend they do as business owners or marketing leaders to sort of elevate their brand on Amazon by themselves?
Yeah. So the first thing you want to do with a new Amazon account is get brand registry.
Okay.
We see a lot of clients come to us that haven't submitted for brand registry. And essentially, you submit a trademark of your product or your brand to Amazon, and it lets them know that you are a real product. You're not a knockoff. You're not just someone just purchasing off Alibaba and reselling, which you do see all the time. But Amazon wants to see that you're a brand and that you're real. And so they have you submit for brand registry.
Okay.
Once you get brand registry, that's what essentially unlocks extra content features. So if you don't have brand registry, the only content you can create is your secondary image infographics, which are the additional images that show next to your main image on an Amazon product listing. But once you get brand registry, you can create other types of content like your brand story, your A+ content, and your storefront. So those are the 4 main pillars of content on Amazon. And if you only have access to one of the 4, then it just doesn't legitimize your brand as well. And on the back end, Amazon doesn't think that your listing is complete and it's not going to promote it. In terms of
Hmm.
organic rankings, the best thing you can do is make sure all the organic content is there that you need it to be.
So
And so,
you're saying if you don't have brand registry, you get one of the four.
yep, you only get secondary image infographics if you don't have
Okay.
brand registry.
Okay. So now I
Yeah.
have brand registry, and I unlock those. How do I fill them out or make them look the best possible?
Yeah. Um, so I won't lie, sometimes it could be kind of intimidating and complicated if
Hmm.
you have never been on Amazon before. Um, Amazon has a lot of restrictions on their content in terms of the size of the graphics, and there's specific words like eco-friendly that you're just not allowed to use. And so one of the really important things to do is to check out their brand guidelines before you start creating content. Because if you're a brand that relies on talking about eco-friendly and recyclable and the environment, you have to make sure that you're abiding by the brand guidelines with
Mm-hmm.
your content. And so it's pointless to create content without understanding those restrictions from the
Right.
beginning. Um, but because of the sizes, Amazon is really specific about the size of the graphics. And so you really can't reuse other types of content like from your website or your Instagram on Amazon. You really have to start from scratch and
Okay.
create sizes specifically for Amazon.
Is there a guide somewhere
Yeah.
somebody can go and get, or is it like on Amazon that's like, here's the sizes you need?
Amazon has guides for everything.
Okay.
They really have done a good job. They have in their Seller Central, they really have like learning capabilities.
Hmm.
They're lengthy. It'll take time to learn them, which is why a lot of people just hire agencies, but you can do it yourself for sure.
Okay. So now I'm on Amazon. I filled out all the information. I have the right size images. Any other recommendations to help me out on Amazon?
That's the biggest thing for design on the design
Okay.
side. There's definitely other strategies um, with keywords that the like people who know SEO more. I'm not
Hmm.
really an SEO person, so I
Okay.
don't dive too much into that the keyword strategy side as I know a lot of business owners would like to know.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely more geared towards the content side
Okay.
specifically.
Perfect. We'll have another SEO Amazon expert on later that gives that advice. Okay, so let's talk about social media. It seems to be like a passion of yours, and you've had a lot of experience in the past. If I'm a brand, whether it's a mom and pop shop, e-commerce, whatever. Um, how do I choose the right social media account? How do I know what to post, when to post? How do I grow on social media?
Yeah, that is a loaded question these days. I would say the first thing you want to start with is really understanding your audience. If you don't understand who's purchasing your product, it's really hard to go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially even just starting on social media, each platform has very specific demographics. And you can look them up on Google has reports. They usually do them every year, especially there's a website called Social Media Today. It
Okay.
does yearly reports on the users of each platform and the demographics behind them. Um, and you really want to make sure that your customer avatar matches that social media platform.
Okay.
So if you're looking for Gen Z, um, you're looking at Instagram. You're looking at a lot of video content, really short, fun, witty content.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially because I teach university,
Mm-hmm.
these guys are not on Twitter/X.
Yeah.
I poll my students every semester to see where they are, and they are not on Twitter. So if you're trying to reach that audience, you don't go there. Same with Facebook, right? If you're looking for typically Facebook skews a little bit of an older audience
Mm-hmm.
compared to any other social media platform. So if you're a health and lifestyle brand that targets 50 plus, Facebook is your best option.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so that's really where you start in deciding what social media platform to be on, is making sure it matches your customer.
Okay, so so know your customer. I think that's a big component to most of the takeaways for a lot of people in all areas of marketing, but especially on social media. So really, like it's interesting to hear that nobody's on X, right? And at least the younger generation,
The youngers,
they're not
yeah.
on X. So if that's not your demographic, I work with a lot of B2B companies too, and um like I advise them, they need to be on LinkedIn. That's where the businesses are. That's where business people are, right? And so I think
Mhm.
it's really important for people to understand that. As far as like cadences on like how often to post and what type of content to post, you have specific strategies for maybe your favorite platform, or maybe a place to go, a resource that somebody could go and look and say, here's the demographic, here's the platform, here's the type of content. Do you have recommendations on that?
Yeah. Everyone hates this answer, but genuinely, you want to follow your analytics.
Okay.
You can look up any social media guru and follow exactly what they say, down to the time to post, how often to post. And you could do that and not have success if that is not how your audience is engaging with your
Mm-hmm.
brand. So I genuinely don't have any blanket statements of like, this is what works,
Yeah.
because every single business is going to have a different strategy based on their customers, based on their demographics, but also just how their customers are engaging with you.
Mm-hmm.
If your customers do not like commenting on a post, but they will respond to stories, you're going to have a way more intense strategic plan to be posting on stories more than posts, if that's what your audience is engaging with. And so I really like to dive into the analytics as well to see what that looks like and what it's leaning towards. And I like to revisit it on a monthly basis.
Okay.
Social media evolves so quickly that the days of creating a marketing plan and following that plan for the entire year are completely gone, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
We move too fast and our audience changes so quickly that I feel like you really have to reevaluate on a monthly basis, which
Yeah.
sucks. It's a lot of work, but that's how you'll find more success.
So if I'm a new company just starting and I don't have a lot of data yet, do I just post once a day and then look at the data and then evaluate? Maybe that means only on weekdays for the second month. Is that what you'd recommend? Just do a little bit, find the data, do a little bit more, find the data and tweak it as you go?
Yeah. Yeah. You really won't know what works until you try different things. And so I feel like a lot of young businesses are nervous to feel stupid, or they're worried they're gonna fail, or that something's not gonna get any likes or any engagement. But you really won't know if it works or not until you do it.
Yeah.
And so you really want to try reels, try stories, try posts, try carousel posts, like try all the different things
Mm-hmm.
to try and see what is actually resonating more with your ideal customer.
That's great. Any other tips or tactics that you'd recommend to help people elevate themselves online?
I would just say, going back to design,
Mm-hmm.
I would just say, like, truly be true to your brand. I think a lot of companies see like what other people are doing or what the gurus are saying to do, and they rely on that information more than what their brand is, and it confuses the customer. And so I I really go back to follow your brand guidelines and be really, really picky about not breaking them,
Mm-hmm.
and continue to be consistent, and it'll make more sense for your customers.
Yeah, that's smart. Where do you see the future of design going?
That's a great question. I think I was talking with a bunch of other professionals a couple weeks ago, and we are talking about the impact of AI on design
Mm-hmm.
right now, and it's been great. um, the Adobe Creative Suite, even Canva, even just any type of tool like Figma, they're
Mm-hmm.
all implementing AI technologies.
Yeah.
that save us time. And a lot of those things used to take hours. I remember when I was in college and I learned how to manually remove a background from an image
Hmm.
and used to have to go point by point, and it would take forever to get a perfect background removal. And now you just press a button and within 5 seconds, the background's
It's done.
gone.
It's
And
amazing.
so I'm really excited to see more AI come out that just helps with those less meaningful tasks
Yeah.
that help you create better design to begin with.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. I think that AI is a way to elevate yourself to deliver higher quality faster to the end user, right? So even like me, for
Yeah.
example, I own fireusmarketing.com. You can see the logo back here. I went to AI and I said, here's a the name of my company, here's what I stand for, here's what I'm going to do, here's what I want it to look like. And it gave me like 4 or 5 different options, and one of them had us that was on fire like that. And I snipped that out, and I saw another one that I liked, and I did this, and then I went and chose them. I was like, give me brand colors. Here are kind of colors I want. And it laid them all out for me. And then I took all of that, gave it to an actual designer and said, make this pretty, make it mine, make it in all these shapes and sizes and stuff. And it was easy for that person to take it and just deliver everything really fast. And I paid them the same amount I would have paid them anyway. But it made it so much faster, and I already knew what I wanted. And so even from a consumer standpoint, it was really fun to go through that exercise and create that logo. So, and speaking of like the Adobe suite, I love watching the TikTok videos where people, they extend where the picture is like behind the Mona Lisa, right? And then AI populates whatever it thinks is going to be there. There's so many amazing things that I think AI is going to be able to do for us in a design standpoint. And I like the fact that you enjoy it all and you're not like, oh no, it's going to take our jobs, because I don't think it will. If it does, it's going to be a long time until it takes our jobs. But either way, anything else you see coming down the pipeline in the future for design?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't feel like I'm the best at predicting what's gonna come, but I'm so curious to see like how well AI can get, how much it can improve,
Mm-hmm.
because right now, like you said, when you were doing your logo, it gives really great ideas and visuals, but the quality isn't there yet to be
Yeah.
like perfect to deliver a final result of things. And it probably will get there eventually. I just don't know how long it'll
Yeah.
take.
Yeah. It doesn't do words well. Like you have to say,
Yeah.
respell this differently, right? Doesn't do hands or legs well. In fact, I saw a funny meme that I sent to my wife the other day. Everyone says AI is going to take your job. And then it says, here's AI accepting the job position. It has a bunch of people shaking hands with like 17 fingers. And it's like, thanks for the job. Like, we're not quite there yet.
No, we're definitely not, especially with the photos. I would say the photo AI has the most to go
Yeah.
in terms of improving, because the hands, the faces, they're not quite there. But
Yeah.
when they get there, it'll be amazing, because especially like
Hmm.
in the Amazon space, being able to get a custom stock image
Oh, yeah.
of the background of what you need, and then to be able to like put your product in it, and you didn't have to hire a photographer, you just needed to have custom stock. That would be
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah. Agreed. The other thing it doesn't do is it does lend well to the idea portion, but like if like for my logo, it doesn't make it all different sizes and formats and with no background, with some backgrounds. And so like you still have to have a designer take it, tweak it, and just like with words
Yeah.
we say, humanize it. Um,
Yes.
but it's exciting. It's an exciting world that we live in. And I remember when email came out. That's like my kids say you're older than Google, and that's like an insult, right? But so going from handwritten letters to email to this cool internet thing to everybody being able to create a website and a business to now AI helping those people who don't have the writing skills or the design skills and really taking 60% of the work out of it for them so that they can then succeed and grow the economy and help their families and their lives and stuff. I think we're in a pretty fascinating time to live in.
Yeah. We are, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I wrap up my podcast with a handful of questions. So the first question is, if you could go back and give advice to your younger self, what would that be?
I really wish I had stayed connected to people more. I think especially because I moved, I didn't have that traditional hometown.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I met a lot of people in a lot of different places we lived that I lost connection to. And a lot of that had to do with not having social media
For
growing
sure.
up and the internet but not being the same place that it is now. But even just people from college, I really wish I had stayed connected to them more, actually remembered people's names because
Yeah.
networking is such a big deal now. Who you know is so important. And I really wish I had stayed connected to people from when I was younger more.
Yeah. I agree. I'm the same way, and the only way you could really have fixed that is like if you had journaled their names and then looked them up now and stuff. But I went to Snow College and they had a yearbook. It's a really small school, so they had a yearbook, and I Googled it the other day, and it's like most of them are digital now. And I think the year that I was there was the first year they digitized it. So I actually went through line by line, and I was like, I remember that person. I went and looked them up on LinkedIn. I connected, and I was like, hey, remember me? And like, so that's kind of fun. So I wish that I had the journal of other people, just like you're saying. Yeah, networking
Oh,
is
I love
huge.
that.
Yeah.
I am totally going to do that. I have my paper yearbooks still,
Yeah.
and I am
Yeah.
totally going to go through them. That's great.
You should. It's a great thing to find the names, the full names, and look them up and compare the pictures. And I couldn't find
Yeah.
everybody. There's even some roommates that I know their full names that they're just not on social media, and I won't be able to find them. So I reach out to people that I think knew them, and I was like, do you know this person? I want to get in contact and say hi. And some people respond, some people don't, but networking's huge. Okay.
Yeah.
Last question is, do you have any books, podcasts, or leaders that currently inspire you?
Um, a podcast I've really been liking recently is the Nielsen Norman Group podcast. They have a great UX one that talks about a lot of different things within design and users and UX research. And I find it really, really fascinating.
Okay. Anything else?
I also just started, I listen to business books on audio,
Uh-huh.
and I love Brene Brown. And I read her book, Daring Greatly, and that one was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I just started also the book called Dare to Lead, and I'm
Hmm.
excited to see what she has to say with that one.
Very cool. Yeah, I like her too. Both. I have to go look up the podcast because I haven't heard of that podcast, and that sounds like a fun one to listen to. Well, Makenzie, thank you so much for taking the time and jumping on the podcast with me and giving us your full story. You have a really cool story, from growing up all the way to where you're at, and I applaud you for being who you are and the success that you've had up to this point. So thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to the episode today. Listen, I know how valuable an hour of your time can be, and for you to take that busy time out of your day and spend it with us, it really means a lot. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider liking and subscribing on whatever platform you're on. And don't forget to leave a comment. Tell us what you thought about the interview. Ask us questions. Let us know what other digital topics you'd like to hear about in the future. We're here to add value to your life and elevate your digital presence online. If you'd like some help doing that, reach out to me at fireusmarketing.com. See you on the next one.